I know George Stephanopoulos is one of your best friends. He convicted you on television, okay, of a $50,000 bribe. Stephanopoulos did this on ABC. The vice president, J.D. Vance, defended you. And I thought he did so pretty well, because due process is important. Do you want to clarify anything about that situation?
I didn't take $50,000 from anybody.
Okay. How did that get into the mainstream, do you think?
I have no idea. Look, there's been hit pieces on me since I came back to this administration. There's got to be 30, 40 hit pieces on me about how I'm involved with contracting or government contracts, when in fact, day one I came back, I recused myself from any discussions on any contract or any monetary decisions like that, because I used to have a company that did consulting. So I cleared myself day one. What people don't talk about is I took a significant, huge pay cut to come back and serve my nation. And I'm not enriching myself doing this job.
Does this make you angry that they're coming at you this way?
I don't care what people think about me and never have. No, because I know who I am. I work for the greatest president in the history of this nation, in my opinion, and we're doing the right thing every day.
Okay, I got one more question, then you guys jump in. The ICE agents that you command have been demonized as Gestapo, and they're kicking in doors and dragging people out, and their kids are crying. You've heard it all. But what I want you to explain tonight is, what are the orders of the men and women who are on these raids? What are they supposed to do?
Well, they're enforcing immigration laws as enacted by Congress. They're upholding the oath they took to enforce those laws. They're not making this up. So when the people want to attack ICE for doing what they're doing, well, why don't you go scream at Congress? They wrote the law. I mean, ICE is just enforcing the law, but ICE is prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats, and the data proves it. I look at the data every morning on the way to work. I look at 22 pages of data, and the last time I looked at, a couple of days ago, when I actually looked at percentages, nearly 70% of everybody ICE arrests are public safety threats or national security threats.
What about the other 30? How do they get?
Many of them are national security threats. For instance, 3,000 Iranian nationals. Most national security threats don't have criminal histories. They're laying low to do the dirty deed. A lot of them are final orders. People who had due process at great taxpayer expense were ordered removed by a federal judge. Our job is to execute those orders and remove them. A lot of them are gang members. So if you look at the data, and as far as the question is, okay, how about the ones that aren't national security threats, not public safety threats, not national security threats, not gang members? Who are they? They're collateral arrests. Because when the sanctuary cities force us into the neighborhood to find a bad guy, because they won't give us access to the jail, so now we got to go to the neighborhood and find them. When we find that criminal, many times they're with others who are in the country legally. We're not walking away from them. We're going to enforce immigration law, unlike the last administration did.
So even if collateral people, they are subject to deportation, even if they don't have a criminal record?
Absolutely. If they're in the country legally, it's not okay. Bottom line is, it's a crime to enter the United States illegally, and we're not going to turn a blind eye to that.
Mr. Homan, thank you for being here.
If the message we want to send, Bill, is enter the country legally, it's a crime, but don't worry about it.
Well, that's what we've had in the past.
That's the message we send, that enter the country legally, it's a crime, but don't worry about it. Unless you commit another crime, no one's looking for you, you're never going to fix this problem. People are continuing to put themselves in harm's way to come to the greatest nation on earth.
I got a couple of questions. First of all, good to see you, and thank you for being on my show on a couple of occasions. I really appreciate it. But I have to ask you, when you say, okay, you enter the country illegally, it's that, cut and dry, is that consistent in your mind with what the president told America during the campaign and immediately after, that he was targeting criminals, not people who just entered illegally?
Like I just said, we are prioritizing criminal aliens, national security threats, and public safety threats. The data clearly proves it, 70%. Actually, the percentage of criminals we're arresting is higher than what the Biden administration did, even though they said they're going to concentrate on criminal aliens who are convicted of aggravated felonies. And that's just a stone cold fact. We still target criminals. They come first, wars first. But are others wrapped up? Certainly, especially in sanctuary cities where most collateral arrests occur.
I have an angle that I think is what is causing trouble on this issue and for you personally. But we're here for them. So let me get an audience question. Amy, what is your question for Mr. Homan?
Hi, Mr. Homan. I'm from Chicago. And while I do appreciate all the hard work that the ICE officers have been doing, taking the worst of the worst, it seems to become more aggressive recently, probably in the past 2 months. A couple days ago, there's a large train station down the street from my house, and there were ICE officers 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's not always affecting just them. It's affecting regular citizens, too. Delays, whatever. But I'm just curious why it's become so much more aggressive, and seems in Chicago mostly.
Well, a couple of things. If it's aggressive, I don't know if I use that term, but there's 1,000% increase on attacks on ICE officers. Have you seen the media lately? There's bounties on their heads for $50,000 to kill one of them. So they're very careful in the way they do these operations. They got to protect themselves. So I want to use the term aggressive. They're using a lot more precautions when they approach somebody. Second of all, if the mayor wants less ICE agents on the streets of Chicago, then let us send to jail to arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of a jail where it's safer for Chicago residents, it's safer for the ICE agents, and it's safer for the alien. It doesn't make sense to release a public safety threat who's in the country legally back into the public. They like to say, well, we're a welcoming community. We want victims and witnesses of a crime who are illegally in the United States to feel free to come to the police without fear of working with ICE. That is a bunch of crap. Because victims and witnesses of a crime don't want the bad guy in the neighborhood either.
Amy's question, though, how common is it for the Chicago authorities to release dangerous migrants back into the population?
Every day.
How common?
Every day.
Do you have stats on it?
Certainly we do. We have a number of detainers we issued that weren't honored. If you look at the number of criminals we arrested off the streets of Chicago, ICE has made Chicago safer. The governor and the mayor should be calling President Trump and thanking him for taking public safety threats off that street. It makes the street safer for Chicago residents like yourself. No one's going to argue taking a criminal off the street doesn't make the community safer. I looked at the data this morning. There's over, there's about, between ICE and CBP, there's over about 530,000 removals. At 70%, you're looking at about 330,000 criminals that were removed from this country, which makes this country safer.
Could you explain why, when it comes to ICE agents, there's been this whole big deal about concealing their identity? Law enforcement officials throughout this country don't get the license to do that. They have to walk up to you, they have to identify who they are, they have to make sure it's clear. An ICE agent getting to conceal their identity is not a privilege or a situation that other law enforcement officials have. Why should ICE agents have that?
Look, I don't particularly like the mask either, but name another law enforcement agency that's over 1,000% attacks on them. And name another law enforcement agency whose spouses and children have been doxxed on social media and been attacked and bullied in churches and schools. These men and women put a gun on their hip and wear a Kevlar vest to go on the streets every day, look for the worst of worst, makes this country safer. Them wearing a mask, if that protects them and protects their families, then that has to be done. No one, I remember the days some of these cities, if they weren't wearing a mask during COVID, you got reported to the police and got arrested for it. These men and women are trying to protect themselves and their families. And again, I don't like the mask. I wish there wasn't need for it. But there's not another law enforcement agency dealing with the attacks that ICE is dealing with right now. Look, immigration enforcement, I've been doing it since 1984. It's always been controversial. It's always been emotional. But people need to remember the men and women at ICE, they don't hang their heart on a hook when they go to work. They're mothers and fathers too. They have children too. And they take very, very emotional things home with them every day. I've done this for over 40 years. I stood in the back of a trailer with 19 dead people who baked to death. I've talked to 9-year-old little girls that were raped multiple times by the cartels. And these men and women take that home every day. These are heroes and they're patriots, and I'm happy and I'm proud to support them.
But Mr. Homan, respectfully, I get where you're coming from. But one could retort by simply saying, when Obama was in office, he actually, and I said this to you when I interviewed you on my show, Obama deported more people than Trump did the first go round. But we didn't have this going on. So is it possible that the rhetoric of the president and the manner in which he chooses to verbalize his position on this issue may serve to antagonize the situation, and that is what is calling all of this, when you consider the fact that other presidents, like a president, you've acknowledged President Obama deported more people than President Trump before Biden went against Obama and decided to open borders. We didn't have these kind of issues until President Trump's second term. Even in his first term, it wasn't like this. So what level of culpability should the president and his administration have in regards to this?
Well, first of all, I think President Trump was elected to the White House, the #1 issue, enforcing immigration laws and securing the border.
I agree.
We have the most secure border in the history of the nation.
I understand.
Today. And when you have the secure border, less people are dying from fentanyl, less drugs are coming in, less sex trafficking, women and children, less known and suspected terrorists are coming in.
Not debating that.
Cartels are making billions of dollars less. They're going bankrupt.
Okay.
Having a secure border not only saves lives. When you have, like right now, 96% less people are coming. When 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being raped by the cartels? How many children aren't dying? How many pounds of fentanyl aren't getting in? How many non-suspect terrorists are getting in? A secure border saves lives. Not only that, a secure border gives us strong national security. You can't have a strong national security.
But I'm not denying that. I'm saying I get where you're coming from. I totally agree with it. I'm just asking, what level of culpability should the administration have in terms of how it's perceived because of their verbiage and how they've served to talk about folks like this? That has exacerbated the situation. And the numbers may be absolutely correct. You and I have talked about it, and I don't refute what you're saying. I'm simply talking about if he handled it a bit differently, maybe, just maybe, people would be conducting themselves.
I'll give you an analogy that I hear all the time, okay? Look, the masks, it's a bad look, all right? I understand the security problem with it, but it's a bad look. You make these men and women look like Hamas, and then you don't think people are going to react to them that way. Of course they are. They got their, it's like this stupid movie, Men in Masks Not Be Trusted. That's what you're setting them up for. I get the risk. Color of authority matters also. They should have a badge. You should be able to identify what they are. Nobody should have to guess that they're getting duped and they're not who they say they are. Everybody does it the same way. I get the sensitivity of the security. I'm with you. Two things that I think are getting stuck up. One, you talk about seeing data all the time. You guys do not put out data enough. Track is the best thing that they have, right? Syracuse University has this open FOIA request. I hear you on shows all the time, Tom. I do not think that you're FOS, okay? I've known you a long time. You can't say, I see the data all the time. Great, I don't. Put the data out, because track, you can look it up for yourself, TRAC, it's an acronym through Syracuse University. It's like 50-50. That takes me to the next point, which is you're not cutting fat, you're cutting muscle. And these communities need people who may have entered the wrong way but have done everything right since. And their kids are here, and they're productive.
But that's for
and
Congress.
Their employers need them. What?
That's for Congress to do. They got to read.
I'm not on. Listen, Tom and I have talked about this. You're an enforcement guy. I'm with you, and Tom makes the right point that they got to fix it. But enforcement priorities matter, okay? And I think that's part of it that you should
One big
address.
thing, both of you
Yes,
guys
Tom,
missed,
go ahead.
And I'm going to throw it over to the director.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you.
I say this, but it has
Deputized as you've been.
It has to be said. The surge of foreign nationals through the open border instituted by President Biden solely was about 15 million human beings. So, of course, there's going to be more pressure on a president incoming than Barack Obama. The most of Obama's deportations were at the border. But when Biden took over, he opened the border. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
That's what I thought.
But get your answer, Chris. The bottom line is.
Thank you.
Bottom line is the data clearly shows that Trump is keeping his. Go to ice.gov and track.
It's like the last time they put it out was in like September.
But I can tell you, when I was ICE director, track used to put out a lot of information. You can take raw data and make any assumptions you want, unless you know what that data means.
Tom, I'm with you, but that's the burden.
But
be transparent and then have the fight.
I'm being transparent tonight. 70% of everybody arrested is a criminal. President Trump said we're going to concentrate on national security threats. That's exactly what we're doing. The data shows it. And like I said, for the hundreds of thousands of criminals that is going to be removed in this administration, it makes that country safe again, keeping President Trump's promise to American people what he was going to do. He said he's going to have the largest deportation operation in history. We're going to have the largest deportation operation in history. You look at numbers right now, I just told you, over 500,000 have been deported between CBP and ICE. And that's not counting the first 4 months of the fiscal year that were under Biden. We're not even counting those months. But if you extrapolate that, in the monthly apprehension we got right now, you do have the biggest operation in the history of the nation. And one of the reasons people don't understand, why do we have the most secure border in the nation's history? Because President Trump's executive orders, his leadership on that, the men and women of the border who stand in that front line and catch and release. And third, because the whole world sees ICE out there every day across this nation enforcing the immigration law, sends a clear message of consequences so families don't spend their life savings handed to a criminal cartel to make that dangerous journey because they know there's consequences. President Trump's policies, whether people want to face it or not, is saving lives by the thousands. Under Joe Biden, a record number of aliens died making that journey. A record number of Americans died from fentanyl coming across that border. This administration is not only enforcing law and making our streets safe again, they're saving thousands of lives.
Why do you think Governor Pritzker is so adamant against you and ICE? Why?
Because they hate Trump more than they love the residents of Chicago.
Is it that simple, though?
You tell me. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
Didn't you ask?
I think any elected mayor, any elected governor, any elected city council person, their number one responsibility is the safety of their communities. So why would you not stand shoulder to shoulder with ICE to remove public safety threats?
Because you don't think that the people that they're arresting are the number one security interest in your community.
Well, I think they are.
I get your opinion, I get my opinion, but I also get that you don't make the policy. Bill is right about that. Hurts every time I say it. That Congress should make these priorities. Congress should give what your men and women have been asking for since I first met you 100 years ago, which is changes to the rules of what is asylum and how they can process and what their resources are. They won't do it because they love the problem, because it allows them to make everybody hate each other.
No, they love the problem. They love the problem because it's also something they think they can campaign on. Let's not forget that.
Right. Campaign on the problem.
But I agree with Cuomo on this.
All right.
You need a better PR guy out there.
Yeah, hire Bill. Mr. Homan, thank you very much for being with us. I appreciate you. I want to let you get back to the job. I want to shake your hand, though, just so that I can walk in front of Bill. Thank you for being with us.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Homan, thank you very much.
For coming in.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.